Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to our friends in the West Coast and potentially the East Coast. So I want to welcome everyone and Happy New Year. My name is Sherry Stevens, and I am the owner and the CEO of the Women's Executive Network. Just so happy to see you here today. You know, a brand new year, leaving 2020 behind us for all that it was, all that we learned, all the challenges we had, everything that we overcame together as one community. And looking forward to a bright, probably challenging again, but that's okay, 2021, you know, with hopefully lots of hope. And I'm just looking for a very positive year and staying positive. And I think the session today is a really good way to start that. And we're so proud to be partnering with IG Wealth Management as we launch our Women, Wealth, and Wellbeing, which is a 4-part series. So when you think of your well-being, you know, your health and your happiness probably come to mind. But what about your finances? It turns out, you know, wealth is an important part of the wellness equation too. Because if you probably recall times in your life, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're self-employed, or even if you work for a corporation, you know, the times when, you know, it was challenging, and probably 2020 challenging for many of us, some of us losing potentially our jobs, with even threats of losing our work as well. As an entrepreneur, you know, losing some of your clients, etc. So it was probably a very challenging year as far as finances for many people. I know here at WXN, there were a few challenges as well because we had to, you know, convert all our live events to virtual events. So, you know, when you have challenges like that, it does kind of bring you down. And I think if we have a really good handle on, you know, how we move forward this year, you know, how do we look at our finances and our overall health? Because when we do have, you know, a good finances and we have a good handle on it, it does make you feel secure. It does make you feel confident in your future. And I think among women, I think it's a subject that is too often left out of our conversations. So I'm really glad to see so many women here today, and some men, our allies, are here as well. So thank you very much for that. And looking forward to some really robust conversations around our health, our whole health. So let's talk about this. So the 4-part webinar series is your guide to finding and achieving your personal and professional success through a lens of wealth and well-being. So in each of our sessions, you'll get practical advice from a team of expert female leaders who know their business strategies and personal growth strategies alike. So today's session, our first session, is about goal setting for the new year and applying strategies that work. It's a fact that 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. So this year, instead of making resolutions, let's make specific, measurable, and achievable goals for your professional and your personal success. This is your chance to start fresh, as our expert panel of female leaders here today are ready to help you build a plan and lead you through the strategies that will put you on the right path from day one. I want to thank you for coming out today, for investing in yourself. And we encourage you to keep returning to learn more about women, wealth, well-being in the coming weeks. So a little housekeeping, you know, with 2020 and the virtual events, that adds a whole other complexity to these events. So I want to go over some housekeeping with you, and it has to do with our platform. So this platform is called Remo. We've actually used it before. This is not our first go around. It is our first go around with IG, but we used it for our Canada's Most Powerful Women Top 100 Leadership Summit and Gala. So we wanted to I just want to go over it with you just to give you some tips and some points. I'm hoping everybody can hear me okay. I don't know if I'm getting staticky or not. So I'm hoping everybody can hear me. So first of all, as you saw right now, during the presentation, your mic and camera will be turned off because we want your undivided attention. So we would turn off the mic and the camera. So however, that doesn't mean you can't communicate with each other. So there are three chat functions. There is a general chat, so you can chat with everyone in the building and everybody will see it. There's a table chat where you can just chat with the people at your table. And then there's also a private chat. So if you see somebody in the building, because there's a list of participants, if you scroll down the list of participants and you see somebody that you know and you go, hey, I haven't seen you for a while, I'd like to chat with you, you can send them a private message and ask them to meet you at the IG lounge on floor 1 or whatever table you're at. That's another option for you as well. So once we finish the presentation, so during the networking break, so your mic and video will turn back on and you'll be able to communicate and talk to the people at your table as you have been doing. If you get any feedback on your video, on your mic, it means that you either have 2 remote tabs open or you have another browser open. So make sure everything is shut down, every browser is shut down, except for your Remo event. There's also a neat feature. I'm not sure if all of you did it or not. However, you can also add your LinkedIn to your profile page. I would encourage you to do that only because it's great when you're networking, you're trying to build your community, your professional community, that they can just go on to your profile when you're sitting at the table and they can actually link in with you like that right there. So it's kind of a cool feature. Another thing I want to let you know is to the left of the room, you'll see a bank of floors numbered from 1 to 10. Number 10 is not functioning today, but number 1 to 9. So you'll see that there's floors 1 to 9. And if you hover over each floor, you'll see how many people are on that floor. So you can go and visit from table to table and from floor to floor. So I really encourage you to really make the most of your networking opportunities and make sure you're going around to various tables and meeting lots of people today. Don't be afraid to explore. You're not going to break anything, honestly. I'm not really good at at IT and things like that, and I didn't break anything. So please don't be afraid. Go around, test different things. It's a lot of fun. And if you get stuck, there is a help desk. So when you go back to the floor, you'll see on the top right hand corner in big bold letters, help desk. So there is help for you there. My team, Corel, Gary and Karen are stationed there to help you with any questions. And you can also enter any of your questions in the chat box, and Gary and Karen will be watching for that as well. So it is a pretty amazing networking platform. So please, again, feel free to move from table to table, floor to floor to chat with other attendees and to build your network of successful women and men. And now, the Investors Group Wealth Management, our presenting partner for the 4-part series, passionately supports our mission of meaningfully propelling and celebrating the advancement of women at all levels, in all sectors, in all ages. Not only do they help us bring these events to you, but their entire team has been an incredible resource and constant source of encouragement every step of the way. So I want to thank all the IG women behind the scenes, and you know who you are. And I also want to thank my WXN team for making this happen. For this series, IG Wealth Management has kindly provided the IG lounge space. So we do have the lounge space on every floor. And this is where you can continue to network during our programming. You'll also find helpful insights and thought leadership about the IG living plan, retirement and investment planning, and how to find your personal advisor, and much more. So make sure you take a virtual trip to the IG lounge located on all floors to check out the many useful links on the table. So there's little iPads. Yes, little iPads on the table, and you can just link to them and it'll take you to the various links for IG. Again, the lounges are on each floor. They're on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Okay, the far left and far right-hand side, and you'll see it labeled on the top. So I would encourage you to go visit them. Okay, let's get started. And now I would like to introduce our host for the 4-part series, Alana Riley, from IG Wealth Management, Senior Vice President. There she is, Senior Vice President, Financial Services, Western Canada. A successful, driven people leader, Alana boasts an expansive career in financial services, leading teams of 1,000 plus employees in wealth management, estate and trust services, retail banking, commercial insurance, healthcare, small and medium-sized business lines. Alana provides strategic insight as a member of the senior distribution executive team, aligning the organization around the vision, hope, and delivery of transformational change leadership, digital platform launches, and the client experience model. Passionate about championing diversity and inclusion, Alana is the National Chair, Women of the Wealth and Diversity and Inclusion Steering Committee member. Alana holds a master's of Business Administration degree from Dalhousie University, blended with financial services specialization, and Bachelor of Arts degrees from the University of Windsor. In addition, Alana has obtained the designations Partners, Directors, and Officers, LLQP, YTT, and currently working towards the Certified Financial Services Coaches designation. Woo! ICF. Oh my goodness, Alana.
No, I'm tired.
No, I don't even know what they stand for.
That's another one.
Kudos to you. And Alana also doing all this, she's also founded Invest in You, which is designed to link financial wealth and overall health into one holistic plan, seeking to make an impact in the communities in which we work and in which we live. Alana is also active in the community in which she serves as a board member on Children's First Canada and Gordie Howe Cares. She's a previous chair of the Lean Advisory of Mount Royal University. She's a current chair of Women in Leadership, and she's a committee member, Global Accessibility Advisory Group, and I don't know when she sleeps, but this is Alana. And Alana also launched a national seminar series, Synchronized Financial Planning for Women, and was awarded the Wealth Manager of the Year 2019 Women in Finance Awards Canada. And I think Alana, I started talking about this 2 years ago in Calgary when I was there to meet with you, and it's finally come to fruition after all those years. And we're just talking about how the world has changed since we met back then. But Alana, thank you so much. We appreciate this. We appreciate your partnership and your support of WXN and the women as well. So please, everybody, give a warm virtual welcome to Alana.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Sherry. And as a side note, on LinkedIn this morning, I noted you are celebrating 5 years as CEO at WXN. So on behalf of the amazing women across the country, we want to say congratulations and thank you to you and your team championing and developing and doing the advancement and recognition of women that you so boldly do. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us as we proudly present the first of our 4-part webinar series. As mentioned, my name is Alana Riley, Senior Vice President, Financial Services here at IG Wealth Management. I'm so excited to be your host today. And through these series with our expert female panels, covering topics that include goal setting, leading in the face of adversity, building your personal brand, and women generating wealth. In addition, the opportunity to network on this platform truly makes this a unique and powerful series. In a time when so many are feeling disconnected from family, friends, and communities, the opportunity to connect during this series will allow you to meet new women. And as Abby Wombat so eloquently states in her book, there has never been a more important moment for women everywhere to truly know the power of their inner wolf and the strength of their pack. Over the holidays, I had an opportunity to unplug, and I hope you did so too. Like so many women experienced, 2020 came with enhanced challenges. As a leader, my #1 concern for my team was, and continues to be, health and wellness. As a mom of a son with special needs who was not able to process all of the sad news being reported daily, 2 other teenagers at home with teenage hormones and no social or physical outlet, worrying about my parents who are in the 70s and missing major milestones of loved ones, including my Nana who just turned 100 years young on January 1st. Not to mention a year where financial market uncertainties, political arena uncertainties, and as Sherry mentioned and shared with you in her opening remarks, this year has been like no other. All that said, I love this time of year. It's a fresh new slate. January is a time when I spend much time planning, reviewing, and building business plans with our team, defining my own professional and personal goals. Taking time for what I coined invest in you, something we find hard to do as women when we tend to be putting everyone else's needs first. In fact, the previous generation coined itself the sandwich generation. However, I call my generation the clubhouse. In some cases, like me, you're caring for 4 generations of loved ones, in addition to our professional roles, our community roles, and more. So today, I encourage you to focus on you, make a plan that will bring you true happiness in 2021. Push your boundaries and step outside your comfort zone, be bold and take action. I love the quote, "A rising tide lifts all boats." Collectively, together we can achieve so much more by empowering, supporting, and lifting all women up. So I hope you're ready to share and learn as we explore strategies and insight to set measurable and action-based goals for your professional and personal success. As a housekeeping item, you do have the opportunity to download the workbook to help you navigate the session today and put your goals pen to paper. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce my wolf pack, this all-star panel of female leaders today. Joining us is Prerna Shandak, Vice President, ETF Product Strategy at McKinsey. Prerna is responsible for supporting the development and execution of the overall ETF business strategy at McKinsey Investments. Prerna has an undergraduate degree in finance and economics from the University of Windsor, my hometown I might add, as well as her MSA from IE Business School in Spain. Next, I'd like to introduce Rhonda Goldberg, EVP General Counsel at IGM Financial. Rhonda has over 20 years of legal experience. She has an in-depth knowledge of the legal and regulatory environment with the financial services industry. Rhonda currently serves as a board member of Wealthsimple and is also the MFDA representative for the Ombudsman for Banking Services and Investments. And also just pleased to say, my personal mentor. So thrilled to have you here, Rhonda. Thank you. Next on our panel is Ruth Mead, Regional Director at IG Wealth Management. Ruth is committed to helping financial advisors reach their personal and potential goals with ongoing support. She's a published author in her first book, Jewel of the Leader's Crown. It hit the shelves in 2014 with an official launch in Toronto and became an Amazon bestseller in its category. Winner of 2 national UK awards, she's been featured on BBC TV and radio and has delivered many keynote speeches. Last but not least, our last guest speaker, Barb Wensley, Regional Director, IG Wealth Management here in Alberta. Barb has over 30 years experience in financial services industry, specializing in commercial and consumer mortgage lending before leading a team of financial advisors. Barb is currently a member of the Chamber of Commerce, Business Networking International, and Chair for Abacus. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. And lastly, although we have a virtual session today, we're still looking forward to being interactive. So there is a question and answer panel that you can certainly put your questions in, and we have time set aside at the end as well today. And certainly in the meantime, answering those questions is my friend and colleague, Karen Johnson, Vice President of Planning and Support, and Kevin Dopko, AVP Private Wealth Management, in case you have any technical financial planning questions to throw at us along the way. So ladies, welcome. You know, as mentioned, we've all come out of an unprecedented year, and we've all experienced these challenges both personally and professionally during this pandemic. How are you feeling, and how have you overcome some of these challenges to help you shape and prosper in 21? So let's start with you, Rhonda.
Hi, thank you, Alana, and thanks everyone. I understand that some of my early networking you may have heard, so you all know about the kitten who may jump onto the table at any moment. You know, I feel very fortunate, and we all acknowledge it's been really hard. So, you know, first really focused for us across IGM, very quickly getting our employees, our consultants, everyone home to work from home successfully. And, you know, the challenge in that is I used to work at home all the time. I never worked from home. And it's not a very long walk to my kitchen table. And so that is hard. That's an adjustment for me, for my family, worrying and thinking about my family, as you said, Alana, in ways that perhaps I hadn't had to worry about before. But, you know, it has really reinforced for me the importance of connection with peers, with colleagues, with friends and families. So I feel better equipped now coming out of 2020 into 2021 and remaining, I think, focused, prioritizing for myself personally and professionally. That to me will be the key moving forward.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think we'll continue to still have to adjust as more changes continue to come out. Same question over to you, Prerna.
I was going to say focus as well. I feel that you know, when you're put into tough situations and circumstances that you cannot control, like what we've seen over the past year, you really evaluate a lot of aspects of your life and find appreciation in areas of your life that perhaps you didn't really appreciate in the same way before. So I'm feeling quite grateful, focused, and positive despite everything going on, because ultimately all I can do is control my actions, my mood, and you know what I bring every day to my peers and my teams, and positivity goes a long way. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I love those comments. One of my great former mentors, Maria T, would always focus us and say, control what you can control. And I think, you know, being able to focus on that this year is fairly powerful. So let's get fired up and hear a bit of just rapid fire questions, shall we, ladies? So here we go. You know, in terms of planning, you know, what is more significant to you? So we're going to go around here. So winning mindset or accomplishing the goal? Back to you, Prerna.
I have to say a winning mindset. It's much more longer term, and it takes you further, and it manifests great things.
Awesome. Rhonda.
I'm with you, winning mindset. I think it's just being positive and being agile.
Fantastic. Short-term goals or long-term goals? Ruth, over to you.
Long-term goals. It's often been said we overestimate how much we can do in the short term, but underestimate how much we can do in the longer term.
Yeah, that's so true. You know, we always have those January goals, but do we focus on them past February? So well said. Barb, short term or long term?
Has to be both. You have to be able to focus on you know what's going on right now and what you need to do today, but then also have that longer term vision. So I'd have to say both.
Fair enough. Plan or execution? Prerna.
Gotta say execution. Ultimately, plans can go awry all the time, and you've got to, you know, we've heard the word agile. I don't think it's going to be the last time we hear it in the next little bit. But yeah, you've got to be nimble enough to move with circumstances that you cannot control.
Yeah, well said. And Rhonda, how about you? Planning or execution?
I would say execution too, but it always comes from a place of where you've planned, right? So, but it is ultimately breaking it into small pieces, and I do focus on that execution.
Okay. Achieving the goal or missing the goal? Barb.
Well, we always want to focus on achieving the goal, of course, but I think there's really good learning for all of us and good feedback when we do miss something. And I think that's an important piece on making the next step of your plan work and achieving the next part of it.
Yeah, fair enough. Ruth, how about you? Achieving the goal or missing the goal?
Achieving the goal, but I also really echo what Barbara says there. There's so much learning and it just compels you forward with those learnings, and next time you just hit the ground running with that mindset.
Fair enough. You know, with so many distractions, is it staying on course or adjusting the plan? Prerna.
Adjusting the plan. There's so much that is moving in our world today, and it's more fast-paced than ever before. And you know, whether it's your competitors, whether it's your clients, expectations are changing every single day. So adjustment for sure.
Fair enough. Rhonda, over to you. Staying on course or adjusting the plan?
Adjusting the plan. I mean, if anything, what has 2020 taught us from where we started to where we ended up? It's adjusting the plan and really being open to that and embracing that.
Yeah, fair enough. Last one on our rapid fire, working inside the box or outside the box? Barb.
Well, I think you know me well enough, Alana. I'm always working outside of the box, even though we're in a highly regulated industry and we do have to really focus in certain areas. So inside the box, but creativity and outside the box. I mean, this year has proven that over and over again, that that's always where I'm going to lie.
Yeah, a nice shout out for that. You know, considering our executive of compliance and then legal is on here, we absolutely follow all those rules. And all joking aside, Ruth, last to you, working inside the box or outside the box?
And for me too, outside the box.
Fair enough. So Rhonda, we're going to start with you as we dig in a little bit deeper here. You know, obviously, you know, I'm such a huge fan. You have an impressive career trajectory from the Ontario Securities Commission to executive VP, senior legal counsel for one of the largest Canadian asset managers in the country, a board member, you know, at the same time, of course, a mother of 3 boys and active in the community. You share with us the journey in terms of making strategic choices around what roles do you take and how you are going to achieve them and thrive both on the home front and the work front. And maybe even speak back to, did that mindset play into that strategy?
Well, thanks, Alana. You know, I hate to admit it, I don't know how strategic I was along the way. Certainly early on in my career, but I do think I was mindful of where I was personally and professionally at the time. So I did certainly work early days with young children for me personally in a place where I could run and meet that pickup time at the daycare and have that time with them and think about that, you know, before you did whatever you did in the evening. You know, people talk about this notion of work-life balance, and I'll just put out that it is different for every person and we should embrace that. For me, it's not a daily thing. It's the ebb and flow of, you know, our careers and where we are at certain points. I would say that moving from the government, from a regulator to IG, was strategic on my part, certainly. It was, for me, a moment where I was ready personally and professionally to grow. I wanted to expand my skill set. And I think it comes with taking risk when you're ready to take them with respect to where you are in your career path. I'm really a big believer in owning your personal and professional happiness. That's what I've learned a lot along the way. And my aha moment, that notion of mindset really is about it being okay to make choices that work for you and your family. And they might be different choices for someone else. And I think that's really super important as we grow and go. So I give myself a break. I'm not going to be all things to all people on any given day. Some days I'm not going to be very good one way or the other, but giving yourself the okay to find your path where you are happy, that really is important. So that's what I would say holistically about being strategic, taking those chances, but also really just being comfortable with who you are and that can change as time goes by in your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think strategic, it's interesting, just that whole kind of concept, both from a planning, but professional and really being able to build in the family into that structure as well, as you mentioned in your early comments. So Obviously I know that this is just such a busy time for our senior executive team with formal budget planning, and of course, and lots of meetings happening. So do you mind sharing with us what this process looks like at an executive level?
Yeah, sure. It's very transparent. We sit around that table. We look and debate and discuss everyone's plans, and importantly, their impact to each other. I think this is where, how do our actions and our plans impact our colleagues and across our companies? I mean, ultimately, we build a plan together that is going to drive the right outcomes for the business, but importantly for our clients, for our employees, for our consultants, for our communities. And it is an ebb and flow, again, this notion of give and take. How do we think about what we need to do short term, medium term, long term? They really are all the skills that you would apply personally to yourself, to your own business plan. We then just now holistically say, what does that look like at the corporate level? And it does teach us a lot about each other. And you do grow through the process as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Prerna, we're going to jump over to you. And so, maybe share with us, if you don't mind, how you set your business and personal goals. And is there a process that you go through?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of writing things down, and it's not just goals, but it's having a vision as well, which I think is it's a very powerful thing to do. So I start with the vision, and I start with my personal career. Where is it that I want to be heading? And it doesn't have to be a job title, it doesn't have to be a level, but what is it I see myself doing in the long term? And I work backwards from there. So once you sort of vision out where it is you want to be and what kind of work you want to do, work backwards, look at the year then and say, what does 2021 look like for me then, based on where I'd like to be in the long term? And then you need to further break that down. So I look at every quarter then and say, what does Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 then look for me? And I get all the way down to hopefully a monthly level, if not a weekly level. Now, there's all sorts of goals you can set or plans you can make for yourself. I break it down into a lot of different buckets. So I have separate personal goals. I have goals for my financial well-being. I have goals for my career, and of course, goals for my business unit, which align to the broader organization. And so I take a look at them separately. They should be lists you maintain separately and ones you review separately, but it really can help you prioritize, reprioritize through the course of a week, a month, a quarter. Things come up that you don't expect. Sometimes they're not always welcome. Sometimes they're a pleasant surprise, and it's okay to revisit that. And I do spend, I'll say, 15 minutes at least a day looking at those lists and saying, does anything need to change based on what's happened today? So I think just making that into a habit for me has proven very effective over the past few years.
Yeah, fair enough. I know you mentioned this briefly, kind of in your comments. You obviously have some of those lofty goals, the bigger kind of bucket goals. But you then, maybe just share with us, how do you stay on course when there's so many other competing priorities?
For sure. I think, lists can be a really terrible thing if they're not used properly. They just become dumping grounds for work that you have to do, tasks. And it's a really terrible way of using lists or goals or, any kind of vision boards of those sorts. So you have to prioritize your time. It's funny, we often have, we're much more frugal with our personal property or money, but as soon as it comes to time, we don't treat it in the same way as dollars in our bank account. And, we really have to be seeing our time as that, and what is most important to our careers, our job, our, requirements, expectations for the year. And it might be things we don't want to do, might be, procrastination, and we move further down the list because they're just bigger items we don't want to tackle. But you have to absolutely prioritize those and spend your time where it's going to be worth it. You can be busy all your life life without ever doing something meaningful. So you really have to look at your time like you would money in your bank account, and that's something you can't get back. You know, money you can make and earn and save over time. Time you cannot get back. So I'm a big believer of just, and back to Ruth's point, she talked about the short term versus long term. Sometimes we overestimate what we can do in a day or a week and underestimate what we can do in a year. And so, you know, just reminding yourself of that as you're looking at your to-do list and saying, is this really important? Is this where I want to spend my time today or this week? So it's just a constant activity that you need to get into the habit of doing.
Oh, Prerna, I feel like you're speaking to me directly. I need to know the power of saying no instead of yes. So it's so true. So thank you so much. Ruth, we're going to jump over to you if you don't mind. And, you know, I hear so often women say that they struggle with seeking specific career opportunities. You know, and in fact, we know the statistics support this by highlighting when a man reviews a job description and sees that he has 3 of the 10 requirements, he throws his name in for into the ring. And of course, you know, the woman will often look through the same list, will have all 10 or 9 or 10, maybe even 7 or 8, but lack the confidence to apply. And so it often takes courage to take big leaps in your career. And I know one of your big leaps was moving from a corporate role in rural Ontario, from London, England to Canada. You know, share with us some of the process of these major career and personal decisions and how it took you to link it to your goal.
Thank you, Alana. Absolutely. Actually, at the heart of those bold moves was very much a decision and a dream as a family. Ultimately, we knew we wanted to live in Northern Ontario, Canada, and enjoy that lifestyle. But first, the process actually meant leaving behind our dream jobs in London, UK. And we'd worked over 2 decades to build those careers. But we sold everything and we moved lock, stock and barrel to Toronto, Canada initially. And then a few years later, we left the smoke of the city altogether and actually a corporate job that I loved. And we'd promised our son that he would go to school in rural Ontario, and that was the ultimate goal. And so we'd promised that. So we did. We moved entirely out of the city up north. And the process of those major decisions, it really came from thinking more long term and a belief that being in the surroundings that we loved and really inspired us, that we would all thrive personally and professionally, and we would always find a way, and we all have. But the truth is, I think any change and putting ourselves out there into the unknown, it can be scary. And there were moments of doubt, hesitation, but oftentimes it was recognizing when really that was just the noise of our thinking. But had we left that unchecked, it could have held us back. But the neat thing I discovered that having made already the first scary, big, bold leap, the second move didn't feel quite so daunting. And this courage has since really, truly helped me stretch my thinking in terms of my goal setting, and has played a big part in my professional growth and really helping others to see bigger goals. And to the point that oftentimes I believe, as Jack Canfield said, everything you desire is the other side of fear.
Mm-hmm. Wow, well said. And big, bold move. I love your comments around the first one's the most difficult. You know, speaking of big, bold moves, you know, author of a fantastic book, Jewel in the Leader's Crown. And so maybe share with, lots of people say they're going to write a book, but publishing is a different part of the journey. So, you know, speak to us around an author, what that looks like in terms of the process, and which goal setting techniques did you find most effective when striving to make this aspiration a reality?
Yes, actually, the book was once a dream. It's that everybody else told me that I should do. And it wasn't until we'd moved out of the city, my husband just casually commented, you should write that book now. And it's interesting because it was a real aha moment, because I started to find myself brainstorming, feeling excited, thinking about content and thinking about how valuable that might be. And it was in that moment, I simply decided I was going to write the book that I wished I'd had when I set out on my career, and perhaps would have saved me a few bumps and bruises. And it quickly became a non-negotiable personal goal for me. And in terms of the process of publishing, I literally had no idea. And I think it was a classic case of you don't have to see the whole staircase to make the first step. And so I found as I took the first step, started to research, it just gathered momentum and pace. And looking back, I think there was 3 things that made a difference. The first thing was deciding and then going all in and just giving it everything. And second, just being so passionate and being compelled by purpose of really helping potentially my reader audience. And third, just the absolute determination. The book would hit the shelves within a year. And I think the reason that made such a difference is because I found myself so badly wanting to see it through and to being successful that I found myself setting really unrealistic deadlines to get the manuscript to my editor, to setting my alarm 4 or 5 in the morning, even when my eyes were stinging with a sting to rival the jellyfish bite. And my publishing journey, I think, can really relate to the words that, you know, women need to shift from thinking, I'm not ready to do that, to thinking, I want to do that, and I'll learn by doing just that.
Yeah, amazing, and thank you. I love the take the first step analogy. So thanks so much for sharing that, Ruth. Barb, you know, I know you've been studying in the neuroscience coaching program, and you know, so I'm hoping you can share with us a bit more relative to mindset. And I know Sherry mentioned, you know, in the beginning, in terms of studies showing that 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. So, you know, maybe help us to understand when you're setting your personal or professional goals, what are some of the strategies you use to stay on track and achieving the goals, and how much time do you dedicate on goal setting, and how often should you review them?
Well, I spend a lot of time on goals and goal setting because I think it's there until you really thought something through very carefully and you've made sure that you're making the decision. Like Ruth talked about the decision she just made to write that book. You have to make the decision first, and part of that is thinking about it and planning about it. So I spend at least 2 days at the end of every year planning for the next year. So I don't wait till January and try and getting away from that behavior fix that we have about January, because obviously, I mean, I've heard even more specific stats about that only 8% are still around in February of your New Year's goal. So I spend at least 2 days before the end of the year looking at my vision and what I want to do in the next year. And then half a day every quarter is minimum on business planning. 1 hour per week I take off. I get out of the office. I have a blank pad of paper and I just write. I just come up with things. We have to use our, you know, creative brain. And then daily goal cards, daily reminders. I have goal cards that I've started since 2004. And every single one of those goal cards, I have accomplished that goal. Because I looked at that goal card with those 3 very focused goals every day, 10 times a day. I had one in my car visor. I have one on my bathroom mirror. I have one on the drawer at my desk. So every time I look at that goal card, that's training my subconscious brain to accomplish that goal. So.
Wow, you know, awesome, and no doubt one of the reasons why you're one of our team leaders on our health challenge here in Q1. So I know you're keeping us active, but you know, it's a real big concern for people in terms of being able to navigate through these challenging times, but boosting your mental and physical health. You know, we're all sitting here in these new Zooming chairs all day. You know, so talk to us. You know, I know researchers have frequently linked the purpose of positive health outcomes and increased overall well-being. You know, share with us some of those, if you don't mind, Barb.
Well, I think one of the things, and you've all heard of, you know, some of the books, Start With Why and Our Purpose, and some people know their purpose since they were 5. Like they just know that's their purpose in life. Others flail around and struggle, you know, for most of their life to determine their purpose. And I always look at purpose as perhaps something that can change, but you know, you can look at the purpose that's at the hierarchy of Maslow's needs, that self-actualization, which is, you know, your absolute, you know, self-fulfillment. You're the happiest. You would do that even if you didn't get paid. But then if your physiological needs for food, water, wealth, and rest right now. I mean, some people have lost their jobs this year. That becomes a different purpose. Now we have to adapt and adjust to those needs first, and that becomes our purpose. So our purpose can change, as we move through. Our need for security and safety has to be met before we can have the purpose of developing better relationships or the esteem needs of prestige and feeling of accomplishment. So your purpose, like, don't beat yourself up. I think everyone's like, oh, I got to find my purpose and what's my why, and this is so this is I don't know what it is, and they're in panic mode. Just relax and sit in stillness, and it will come. And perhaps your purpose today is different. That's to get maybe change your career or satisfy some of those basic needs before you're able to move on to some of your, what we call maybe a greater purpose or your higher purpose. So, but when I look at that, we really have to find it for ourselves. It's really very individual. And so in order to accomplish those goals, you have to have that feeling of desire. You have to have that feeling of making the decision that this is what I really desire, that burning desire. And then you can start to ask yourself those empowering questions. So those positive, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? You need to put those questions into your brain, because your subconscious mind will figure it out for you. It will figure it out for you, even if you don't know even the first step today. But you have to ask it the right questions. You have to feed it properly. So I'm not sure if that went off on a tangent that you.
I think that's great, because it links back to some of the questions in the workbook as part of the activity. So thanks so much for that. We're going to take a break and head into some networking. So I think my colleagues, our guests here behind the scenes at WXN, will open us up so we can move into some of the networking, and you'll have an opportunity to connect with each other for a few minutes before we come back and carry on with our panel. Okay, ladies, well, thanks so much. I see everybody's returning. I hope you had as much fun as I did connecting and meeting new women, and of course, some very brave men. So thank you so much. So let's circle back and kick off this in the second section with another round of rapid fire. Keep you guys on your toes. You ready? So favorite book, Rhonda.
Okay, so right now I am reading President Obama's book, but I have to admit I'm also rereading the Harry Potter series for the third time with the youngest kid. And so, it's a combo of what inspires and what connects you to the other folks in your house.
I love that, and certainly have a big stack on my nightstand. So Barb, how about you? What do you have on your nightstand?
Well, me, Lana, I'm reading 3 to 4 books a month. It's readers are leaders, and I just can't ever get enough. I'm the one who, my mom used to have to turn the light off at 2 in the morning because I was hiding in the bathroom reading. The most influential book I think that I read ever was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's famous, and I think I wish I would have read that when I was about 18. I also right now I can't pick one. Untamed by Glennon Doyle is just a phenomenal one, and if you're looking for figuring out purpose, that's a great read. And then one of the other ones I think for women in particular, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard isn't just another. So I had to come up with 3. I couldn't just come up with one.
I love that, and I did read Untamed over the holidays as well. So absolutely fantastic. Next rapid fire, aspirational leader and why. Ruth, over to you.
For me, it has to be Margaret Thatcher. In times of national adversity, she was the rock who consistently stayed firm, and she led an entire nation to victory.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if you watched that next round of The Crown over the holidays too, but oh wow, I'm admitting all my guilty pleasures over the holidays. So thank you for that. Prerna, over to you, aspirational leader.
I have always struggled with this question because I cannot identify just one. For me, I am a people observer, whether it's leaders in my world today or people I've worked with in the past. You know, some people are really great at influencing, others are great at leading, some are great at getting the job done. And so, you know, I'm constantly taking inspiration and looking at people all around me, and it's not just about leaders, but you know, peers and even people in my teams now and in the past who I'm constantly learning from. So this is one that I cannot ever answer because there's just so many attributes, and you know, nobody is really perfect. We all strive in certain areas, so I'm always, my eyes are always open, and I'm always noting, you know, when I'm in admiration of somebody doing something extraordinary, and you know, what I can take away from that.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, and well said. If you're on a desert island and you can only bring 2 things with you, Barb, what are your 2 things? And sorry, Barb, you're on mute right now.
Yes. Sorry about that. You know, I think that's going to be the famous line for 2020 is you're on mute. My husband and I had a great discussion about this actually. What are we going to take? I'm going to take seeds, and I'm going to take matches. I want to look after my basic physiological needs. So that's what I came up with.
Wow, that's deep. I was kind of thinking like, do I want my Apple Watch or my iPhone? So Rhonda, over to you.
So I first did go Barb down the path of, oh, I should have matches, but I was going to assume that someone would help me with my basic survival. So I did go with my phone, and then I had to ask my spouse if there was some solar panel battery that would assist me in the longevity of that. So I have to say I do like feeling connected, and so that's where I went.
Well, maybe on the opposite end of that spectrum then. Favorite way to unplug? Prerna, over to you.
I said traveling. I like to do at least 1 or 2 big trips a year, but my edited version now is hiking. I love to just get outdoors and try different trails out. Just even in Southern Ontario, there's so much to offer. So I'm seeing more of this area than I've ever seen in my life, which is great. I read a lot as well, Barbara, so I'm a big fan of, I'd rather be reading than cooking dinner. So this is a regular activity here. And doodling is my new thing these days. I've got an Apple Pencil that I've stolen from my husband, and he's not getting it back because I'm having too much fun with it on the iPad.
Oh, I love that. That's great. A favorite way to unplug? Over to you, Ruth.
For me, it's either playing the piano, or in the summer, it's being out in the water, exploring the local islands in our backyard. And just in an instant, it feels like being on holiday. So it's going to be really great this year, especially.
It's great to hear so many people are enjoying their own neighborhoods now that they're forced to. So let's dive into a few more questions, and Ruth will carry on with you here while you have your microphone turned off. So what is your go, tried, tested, kind of ensuring, you know, in terms of stumbling blocks and challenges don't derail you off of your key goals?
I think the strategies I find the most effective for me and really push me forward in those difficult times, I think being really, really crystal clear about the picture that you're really aiming for, and even having something like a meaningful visual depiction of it or something that reminds you of that. And then being really, really clear about the difference it's going to make, and even the benefits of it, or even how it's going to feel, how different is it going to feel, and just the sort of even feeling it now. And so that really propels you, and just being excited and just being really clear about the why. We said that's a theme that's been coming up a lot, but it's just so, I find it's very effective, and it's been really important to me. And then sharing all of that as well with somebody, a support person who can hold you accountable, or even just be supportive in those wobbly times. And I find it's really powerful, because I think when you're really clear, when you're really excited, and you're really compelled by the why or the difference it's going to make, you're going to find grit, determination, resilience, creativity that you've never even known that you even had during those times. And just very briefly, going back to when we first came to Canada, in that first year, it wasn't rosy. It seemed like everything went wrong. But we were so vividly clear about why we were there, what the long-term journey was, the benefits as a family. And we'd all said, made a pact that in those wobbly times, we'd all be there for each other, and hopefully it would all be at different times. And made the difference. So those are my tips.
Yeah, I love that. And one of my great, I guess, call it inspirational leaders is, of course, my mother, who was a career professional for years. And she always said that, when you have a career and a home life, when things are great at home, that's fantastic. But when they're not great, you can dive into work. And the flip side is when things are frustrating and challenges, you can focus on your family and the joys there. So it sounds like you were able to navigate between the two of them. Maybe just a follow-up question, whether it's fitness goals or career-based goals, often we hear time is the challenge, right? Maybe it's the obstacle, maybe it's the excuse. In terms of achieving some of these best intentions. So what practical time management tools do you manage or to use to manage your time, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. The golden must do for me is consistently just having advanced planning and preparation and just thinking through and just troubleshooting in advance, even looking at my week ahead or further out, what's going to go or what could go wrong and trying to preempt that. The amount of time that saves. And the other thing that I've been doing more recently, now I'm able to control my calendar a little bit more myself, is just having maybe a concentrated, focus theme per day, as opposed to trying to work on all the goals all the time, all at once. So maybe even on Mondays, it's my team and starting out with them. And then on Tuesdays, focusing on business development, and on Wednesday, a different theme as much as possible. I found that makes a difference. And the other thing that I find very personally effective is breaking my goals down into quarters, and then even breaking them down again into 2-week sprints, and thinking about what's the most massive action I can take in just the next 14 days that's really going to move the needle on my goals. And then evaluating, okay, what's working, what's not working, and then setting the next 14 days. And I've really enjoyed that. But so the last couple of years more so found that's been quite effective. And a quote that I quite like is from Todd Herman, who said, "You can have a bad day, but just not a bad week." So it's just getting back on and just say, okay, yesterday was derailed, but I'm back on track, and what move, and keep showing up every day and just doing the best every day according to what the plan might be.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks so much. Speaking of books, one of my favorite books is Brené Brown's Dare to Lead. And in fact, deep into some of the podcasts last night while I'm getting my steps in. Ironically, Rhonda, Barack Obama was on the podcast last night that I was listening to, half while getting my steps in, the other half while cooking dinner. But Brené has spent so much time and research around the idea of daring greatly and cultivating brave work cultures where leaders can be vulnerable and lead with their whole hearts. As a successful leader, how does this resonate with you? And Prerna, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. There's a concept that I became quite familiar with, and I saw it in action at my former workplace for the first time. I was working for Vanguard at the time, and the concept of servant leadership was a very, very big one. And it was the first time I became a people manager was at Vanguard, and it was drilled into me. You are a servant to your people. You don't lead at the front, you're at the back, what we've heard about what great leaders do. And so that's been ingrained in me since then. And I've seen that culture at IGM as well, which, resonated with me quite a bit. But for me, it's about authenticity. And I think without authenticity, you can't drive that trust from your team. Performance isn't just about what you're accomplishing, but how you do it as well. And so, you have to lead by example as a leader. You've got to show that vulnerability. You don't have to always have the answers. You can instead show curiosity and engage your team and being part of that solution. That's why you bring on great people as part of your team to drive your goals forward. There's a great quote or phrase I heard the other day: a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. And it's such a powerful statement. You're not losing any knowledge, any perspective, any credibility, anything special there by helping others on your team across the organization in coming along with you. So, for me, it's the servant leadership concept, the idea of being a catalyst as a leader for your team. How do you drive that energy, that passion, and that commitment from your team members? And so every day I do that, not just with the people who report into me, but with my broader team, my peers, and managing up as well in terms of our leaders within our organization. How can I continue to do my part in demonstrating, that sort of leadership every day in my activities? So yeah, that authenticity and vulnerability, very, very key there.
Yeah, fantastic. So well said. And you're certainly a candle, Prerna, so thanks for that. And Barb, over to you, because same question, in terms of the vulnerability as a leader, how does that resonate with you? And I know probably sometimes a challenge when a good portion of your team oftentimes tends to be men. What are your thoughts there?
Yes. Well, you know what? I think that's something that I had to learn. I'm highly independent, and I don't like to ask for help, and I don't like to show anybody that I don't know what I'm talking about. And so that was a very, very difficult thing for me to grow into as a leader. That quote, Brene Brown is got it nailed: strong back, soft front, and wild heart. And so that, you only have this one life to live, but you need the courage. You need the courage. So as a leader, you need to be able to persuade people. You need to be able to, talk to them about what's important to them, and listen some more, and listen some more. The old adage, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And so, we as leaders we're just wanting to help everybody else be successful, and that's what we're really here to do. But we also have to have the courage to be able to take the stand and say, this is the direction we're going. And you can't really be a leader without followers, can you? So you still have to persuade them to come along on that journey with you, and walk beside them, be down in the trenches with them. It is so imperative, especially this last year. We've seen it more and more. We have to be down there, understanding what they are going through, and working with them to help them.
So well said, and I can't think of anyone else I want to be in the trenches with than you, Barb. So thanks for that. Shifting gears a bit, obviously advancing diversity and inclusion is one of the strategic priorities here at IGM, and of course, so many of your organizations. So Rhonda, I know you're a big supporter of strengthening IGM's diverse and inclusive culture, across the organization. And so maybe, speak to us about, is this a purposeful goal, and how do you really enhance that momentum?
Yeah, thanks, Alana. It is purposeful for me. I mean, first of all, I really feel when you're in a position like I am in a senior role, we have an obligation to raise our voices, to foster this diversity and inclusion that we believe, is so important. So what, I think it is about being purposeful in my actions, being deliberate. So what does that look like? How do I provoke and engage and support? But more importantly, what do I do personally? And I really have found the opportunity to mentor or coach or sponsor. And sponsorship to me is really important. It has, I think, been beneficial to me. And for me, the difference between mentor and sponsorship is who's talking about you when you're not in the room? Who's promoting your advancement or thinking about that opportunity? I think, Alana, you'd sort of started on that path of, maybe it was the question to Ruth or to Barb, I recall, women sometimes hesitate if we don't check every box before we think of our next move. And I do think we have to all of us really just aspire to and be brave with our ambition. Ambition is a great word, and embrace it. Tell people what you're thinking about. Ask people how they see you and what they see for you in future roles. And so for me, I really do take it upon myself to be that sponsor. I love hearing about across our company what others aspire to, and I do like to believe if I can help, I will. And what meeting am I in that I get to say, you know what, have you thought about so-and-so? But we have to speak up ourselves and take ownership ourselves. That's a lesson I've learned, to really be brave and tell people what I'm thinking about and share that. And and then pay it forward. So I've been fortunate. I think each of us in our roles as leaders do have an obligation, and we should really be purposeful in how we achieve that.
Yeah, so well said, and we're thrilled that you have us, and you're sharing your collective voice for all of us. So thanks for sharing that, Rhonda. Prerna, obviously you've had such an impressive career climbing the corporate ladder in the capital markets arena. Traditionally, again, dominated by men. So talk to us about how your career plan accounted for shattering the glass ceiling, so to speak.
I never saw it. I never saw the glass ceiling, and that's the reality of it. I've been told in many parts of my life, oh, you cannot do this, or that job doesn't exist. What do you mean? And I've just never taken anybody's word on it. So I guess it's a little bit of stubbornness and a little bit of, running towards fear and passion as opposed to obligation, and, believing in what I can do and taking the chance to do it. And so I think that's really what's driven me. I have had a very winding career path. The job I have today did not exist when I came out of undergrad. And so for me to even have thought about it in that moment, that I would be sitting in the seat I am today, I couldn't predict ETFs being, the industry it is today. I couldn't predict I'd have the job I have today and be able to enjoy, doing what I'm passionate about. So along the way, I think, just learning what I've liked to do and not like to do has been obviously important as I've gone through different types of roles. Just because somebody hasn't done something before doesn't mean it can't be done. So I tend to not take no for an answer if I am passionate about it, or that there's some logic to to it from my perspective. Success to me has been equal parts hard work and strategic career planning. So how do you move across different organizations and move upward? I think there's a lot of thinking that needs to go into it. You can't just apply for jobs and hope that the next job you get, you're going to get a level up, or 2 levels up or something. There's thought that goes into it, networking and very strategic planning that's required to map your way there. So it's not just about doing the hard work and somebody will notice you, but how do you plan for that? Cutting out the negativity, right? So again, the naysayers or critics, take with a grain of salt. It's always great to get input and collect. Just criticism can help you grow and learn from it, but negativity can just hold you back sometimes, and so that's certainly driven me to where I am today. And then I'd say there's certain behaviors that I try to look to every single day for what I'm trying to aspire to be is indispensable. All of us, I think, are to some extent dispensable, but there's certain things I think we can do every single day that maybe provide some level of insurance against that. And so, being in service to others, being a valued resource to others, thinking about other people before yourself, dedicating yourself to holding you to higher standards of work you do every day, being open and adaptable. These to me are behaviors, if you make habits, can hopefully provide some level of insurance against dispensability. So these are just, some thoughts that I've navigated through the course of my career, but I've very often been the only woman around the table, as I'm sure many of us have, and I have no problems with that. I'm there because I know what I'm doing, and I'm focused on getting more women at that same table. And so, to Rhonda's point, when I look back at the past 15 years, I'm looking at how can I make that look different in the next 15.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think you touched on so many great things, and talking about that whole critic, it also reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It's of course in one of the Brene Brown book, but of course a Teddy Roosevelt quote. I always like to change the pronouns to women, by the way, of any quote, but I think it goes on to say that it's not the critic that counts, not the woman who points out how the strong woman stumbles, or the doer of deeds that could have done it better. The credit belongs to the woman in the arena, face down, marred with dust and sweat, blood, who strives valiantly, who comes up short again and again, who knows at the best, in the end, with that high achievement, or at the worst, at least if she's gonna fail while daring greatly. And so have you experienced any fails in your plan, and how do you really dust yourself off and rise again? Barb, we'll go over to you.
Well, I don't think there's anyone who would honestly say that every one of their plans 100% has ever worked perfectly. There's always going to be challenges and things show up, and if you want to call that a failure, you can call that a failure. You can look at it in a different way and think, well, that's really feedback to me, and how do I have to course correct? And that's really a big part of everything that we do. And then going back to your core values and your belief systems and starting to think about, you know, how do I grow and improve here? What changes do I need to make? It doesn't mean, you know, when you've set a goal or you've set a vision, it doesn't mean that necessarily you're going to change that goal or that vision. It just means I might have to change the way I get there. So, you know, focusing on what's important now. So that WIN acronym is something, you know, what can I do now? The relentless solution focus, like what is the solution? Okay, so that just sucked. That just hit me in the face or gut punched me. Sometimes it feels like, you know, regroup really quick, like go through that feeling for 3 to 4 minutes. And then what's the solution? What's one thing that I can do right now that can make a difference? And that relentless solution focus is always going to get you back on track again, even if you don't know what that is. What's just one little thing? Just you know, going back and thinking about that. So I think we're all going to run into those situations where, you know, the best laid plans, right? Coming up with acronyms today for some reason, but yeah.
No, absolutely. Rhonda, over to you. How do you dust yourself off and rise again?
Yeah, you know, I sort of have a saying to myself that, you know, nothing worthwhile is easy. Anything worth doing is going to be hard. That's how I plot out my days in terms of what I prioritize. And I do believe in being courageous and tackling the hard stuff. So if you're going to work every day and get up, you know, do stuff that matters and that you can be passionate about. And so, you know, with that comes failure. With that comes setbacks. I have found it teaches me resilience. It makes us vulnerable. It actually makes us open to, you know, perhaps other courses of action that are better paths. We talked earlier about, like, you know, this sense of planning. It really is breaking down goals or end states, ambitions or achievements in these initiatives into small bites that you can chew, that you can focus on, that you can rally and influence people around. And slowly but surely you get there. It's sort of eye on the prize, but take it in small bits. And it's inevitable. It's not going to go as planned. It's inevitable that something's going to pop up. What I think I'm going to start my day with, Prin and I both have a lot of lists going on, inevitably is not where my day is, and that's okay, and accepting that as well. So I do really think it's about remaining focused on what's important, what you're striving to achieve, and yet having the ability and the openness to accept when it's going to go awry and to reflect on it and keep going. So I know now, having had enough failures or issues that have gone sideways, that not to be discouraged by it, but to just wear it as a badge of honor and carry forward. You get better, you get smarter along the way. And that's really what's key for me.
No, that's great. We're going to do a couple quick last rapid fire before we turn it over to the audience and then wrap up. I know we have some audience questions coming in, so thank you for that. So real quick, you know, a couple words or less. What would you tell your younger self? And then what do you tell yourself today? And what do you tell yourself in 5 years from now? So Rhonda, back to you.
Be brave, take chances, and go for it. That's what I tell my former self, and that's what I tell myself today. And I guess for my future self, it would be, look at that. You did it. That's what I hope to be able to say to myself.
I have no doubt that that will be exactly what you're saying. So thanks so much for sharing. Prerna, over to you.
Past self, be calm and composed in stressful situations. That's been a learning journey for me. Current self, give my best every day. And future self, that was fun.
I love that too. Thanks so much. Ruth, over to you.
I think my younger self, I would first ask, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And then I'd tell her to go and boldly do that. And the daily quote I have today just to remind myself is anything you can imagine, you can create. And I think to myself, in 5 years' time, hopefully, I'm saying to myself, I knew you could do it.
Yeah, I love that too. Thanks so much for sharing. And last but not least, Barb, how about you?
Well, I think my younger self, I would have to say, you are enough. You're smart enough, you're strong enough, you can sit at the table with anyone and you are enough. And I think that's something that I still tell myself today. That's not a younger self thing. That's a thing that I still say today. And in looking back, I think I'm going to just say, yeah, you were enough. That, it's kind of a theme, obviously.
And a very good one at that. So thank you so much for sharing, ladies. I know we have a couple audience questions, so I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Karen Johnson, who's going to jump in and ask a couple of the audience questions. So Karen, over to you.
Thanks, Alana. What a fabulous session. We had such great speakers today. The first question I'm going to throw at Prerna. One of the things that we teach a course at IG Wealth Management called Taking the Stage. And one of the things we find with women is we have a really hard time to self-advocate and to brag about our accomplishments. So what do you do to self-advocate and share your successes?
Yeah, if you're waiting for someone to promote you, you are wasting your time. It is essential to build your reputation and your brand across your current organization or in your industry. We have a lot more tools at our disposal today than ever before. LinkedIn is a great example of that. Promote yourself. You need to promote yourself and your team if you're a leader. Self-promotion and being politically savvy are leadership skills that need to be recognized as such, and we all can do many things every single day to get better at that. I'm still getting better at that. It's not enough to just do hard work and good work. That's a requirement, but you need to make sure that that work is getting noticed, and there's a tactful way of doing it. It's not about splashing and bragging your way through every conversation. Look what I did this week, and I've been so busy. How do you do that in a tactful way in terms of highlighting the work you're doing and that work getting reach across the broader organization? So I do spend time every week chronicling my contributions and what I've done, progress I've made on big projects, maybe something I feel really good about. It's like journaling. We're doing all sorts of journaling now, the grateful journal and whatnot. This is just another form of that, right? Once a week, just note down things that maybe frustrated you, things you feel good about, things that you feel you accomplished. So I try to do that. I want my work to speak for itself, for sure, but you want to also build your network within your organization and be seen ultimately as an expert in your field, for people to want to work with you, to want to work for you. So do well in your business, but do well for yourself as well. And there's no shame in that. Good work needs to be seen and heard and acknowledged. You're just doing your part in putting that in front of people who can do so.
Absolutely. That's an excellent answer and great advice. One of the tips I do is I keep a draft email going. So I don't send it to anybody, but I keep a draft email. And if there's something that I knock the lights out, I enter it on there, because it's so easy to forget when you get to the end of the year and you're looking back to see all the things that you've done. So I've told we only have time for one more question, and this one came in for Rhonda. So Rhonda, looking back at 2020 and even the current situation that many women are facing right now, they're trying to balance a home. Some are playing the role of teacher, some are playing the role of caregiver to parents because they've had to take them out of care homes. As a working mom, how do you balance all that, and what are your goals for self-care given the current situation?
So I'm going to take my own advice and be very brave and courageous and share with you that I don't manage it very well very often, but I have a lot of support. I have a spouse who's very supportive, who does a lot of the heavy lifting at this stage of my career where I am. But COVID has raised a lot of challenges for us, and we all are working in environments that are tough. So how do we make sure that we're caring for those around us and our communities and ourselves? Throughout this year, I think I've started to get a little bit better I think it was Ruth who mentioned a little more control over the calendar. I find the beginning of the day, early mornings, are a little quieter for me. And I do take that time. I realized that my commute used to be that quiet time for me to read and reflect, to get ready for the day. And now I lost that. And so I've reclaimed it a little bit first thing in the morning. I try to get fresh air, although it's difficult. I've joked that I probably have fewer steps than anyone in a day. I'm awful at moving, but I think if we just, again, what are the resolutions you keep past January? Little baby steps, a little bit of time each day, maybe a little bit of time on the weekend. We know that we have to be in good places to be able to then be good to others as well. And I really believe that. So I'm not great at it. I don't have great advice, except I think, my advice is give yourself a break and then do what you can incrementally, little steps, and remind yourself that we're all doing the best we can. And it's hard and it's okay to have those ups and downs.
Great answer. I'll steal a little quote from our good friend Marissa Teeter, who also works at ID Wealth Management, and she said, "It's never about balance, it's about harmony," because there's always one aspect of your life that needs more time than the other. So with that, Alana, I'll pass it back to you to end our session today.
Well, thank you so much, and a huge thank you to the amazing group of female leaders on our panel today for your time and sharing your valuable insights. A plan is just a plan without execution, so I encourage each one of you to put your plan in motion today. It's been my honor and privilege to be your host today, and most importantly, thank you so much for the audience and joining in and sharing questions. But with that in mind, to continue the conversation, answer any further questions you might have, don't feel shy to reach out, either myself or any of the panelists directly through LinkedIn, obviously through the WXN network, and of course, most importantly, to each other. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Sherry to do the final wrap up. Mug, Barb, it's the mug.
I don't have my team here saying in my ear, Sherry. I'll start again. Thank you, Alana, so much for being here today and for the expert panelists that we had today. It was really great, a lot of insight, a lot of great advice. So thank you very much for that. And I just, I had some quick takeaways before everybody exits the building, the virtual building. Just some quick things, that I found really interesting is the goal cards, because I think, in setting goals for ourselves, I think we put it on the computer, it gets hidden, and then we forget about it. So I think that was Barbara's idea, that's what she does with her goal cards. So I really like that. I also like that, to be mindful of our time, especially right now. And especially as women, because we want to do everything for everyone. So I think that's a really great takeaway as well. And I like the strong back, the soft underbelly, and the wild heart. I love that. I never really had heard that before, even though I've read her books, but I love that strong back, soft underbelly, and a wild heart. So thank you for that. And please, ladies, be brave with your ambition. Be brave, take risks. Don't sit back and wait for somebody else to help you or to give you that lift. Do it yourself. You can do it. We can all do it. And then just leading, just reclaiming time for yourself. I think that was so important at the very end there, where, we used to commute to work, and that was the time that we took to think and to reflect and just to be still and quiet. And I think, with the COVID, we get up, we're at home, we go right to the computer, right? We don't stop to take that time that we used to take. And I think that was a really important piece of advice as well. So take that time back and use it for your own self-reflection, your mental health as well. So Alana, we're going to do this again in 2 weeks. There will be a recording of this session that we'll send out probably in about a week. And we'll see you here again on January the 28th from 1 p.m. to 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. Leading in the Face of Adversity will be our next session with our host, Alana Riley. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. Thanks again.
Bye.